2, 1. All right, everybody. Welcome to Friday's show for the Along the Watchtower podcast. Today is January 15th, 2021. The month is already half over. You know, that's how fast it happens. Blink and you'll miss it. So today, again, trying to tighten everything up, keep the ship constantly moving, constantly sailing, making this more effective and better every day. We're going to try to keep the monologue short, so just an itinerary of what's coming up. We still have more fallout, ongoing issues that have been issues but are now table conversations. Besides, conversations about 230, unfortunately, conversations about the electoral process. Remember, before all this popped off, we were talking about, every election, the same things with third-party candidates, whether the electoral college is necessary, things like that, whether the argument and idea of the lesser of two evils is relevant, given that we use it, or it's used in some way, shape, or form every election cycle. But now all anyone can talk about is the riots. So, we will be discussing a little COVID news. Part of Biden's $1.9 trillion plan that he unveiled has to do with the vaccination campaign that the United States is undertaking. Some of the things that have happened. I mentioned, I think yesterday at the end of the show, 2 doctors who were sick. So we'll go more into that just a little bit. There's not a lot of information, but and then that's what's really been dominating the news lately is the riots and anything related to it, which has mostly been about the slight incompetence, but mostly culpability of many a person, from the Sergeant at Arms of the House and Senate to the Pentagon to SecDef Christopher Miller, who apparently is supposed to be a Trump loyalist. Okay, if that's the case, I have speculation about that. I don't know. I mean, listen, I've been busy. Okay, I haven't looked into him, even though I've been meaning to. And somebody just said his name. I was like, oh wow, that's his name. He's got like 2 of the most common names ever. Anyway, I digress. But let's just go into it. Please like, share, and subscribe. Can always use the support. Right now, I'm doing this out of my own. I'm doing this on my own, and I wonder. I mean, at some point, I gotta set up like a Patreon or something. But I think that's gonna be way down the line. I'll get a new mic, and I need some soundproofing. I think probably a new camera, and then once I feel like the audio and video quality is professional enough. Basically, once I get the same friggin' equipment that Joe Rogan and stuff has, then I'll be like, all right, I can't do much more than change up the content, right? And that'll be a good point, because then I'll understand that, I already understand that it's not the technology that makes the podcast, it's the man. But there has to be a certain level of professional quality. People aren't going to tolerate listening to, your gamer mic from your freaking PC from like 1999. Like, nobody wants to deal with that. So you want to make sure, I want to make sure that at least is up to snuff there. But I digress. Let's get into it. We here at the AP, and federal watchdogs open a probe of response to Capitol riot. And you're thinking to yourself, really? So only now there's a probe? Federal watchdogs launched a sweeping review of how the FBI, the Pentagon, and other law enforcement agencies responded to the riot at the U.S. Capitol, including whether there were failures in information sharing and other preparations that left the historic symbol of democracy vulnerable to assault by a mob of President Donald Trump supporters. That's probably the most reasonable depiction of what happened that we've read in some time. Also, shouldn't there be a criminal investigation as to any sorts of cohorting by any lawmaker? Like, shouldn't we be looking into an inside job? Shouldn't we be that's what I feel like should be taken seriously, is when the Sergeant-at-Arms for the House and Senate says they denied my calls for the National Guard to give me support, right? And when they're talking about the Pentagon and the SecDef disarming the National Guard, like I feel like these are the things that need to be looked into. The inquiries undertaken by the Inspectors General for the Departments of Justice, Homeland Security, Interior, and Defense could result in searing criticism of the government's handling of a deadly breach at the Capitol, in which we know. The reviews will encompass everything from whether the FBI adequately shared information with other law enforcement agencies about the potential violence to how the Pentagon mobilized for the crisis. Okay, so we might actually get some truth out of that. The initiation of the coordinated inquiries comes as the failings in the government's preparation and response are coming into sharper focus more than a week after the riot. The Capitol Police, for instance, had said it had planned for free speech activity at the Capitol, but not for the sort of violence that erupted as lawmakers assembled to certify Joe Biden over Trump. Excuse me. The lack of preparation is notable since Trump himself had encouraged his supporters to come to Washington and had called on them to fight like hell at a rally shortly before the riot. And then they lose credibility. Again, I wonder what people are going to do when and again, there are probably protests and rallies going on constantly, all year round. I don't see anyone, like I don't want to be the person that goes to a protest, films people saying, yeah, you got to stand up, yeah, you got to fight, we got to make our voices be heard, and then go and try and go viral just screaming about, okay, oh my God, these people, they're coordinating for terror. Like that's not, you have to be consistent. Be consistent. Okay? I understand that you don't like the man, but don't point at the generic rhetoric of all the. Remember we were reading the article the other day, and it said that Twitter banned Trump for tweets that were less inflammatory than the stuff he usually says. Okay, you have to be consistent. It is the inconsistency to me for the social media, for the Silicon left and social media, big tech. It is the inconsistency that points to them moderating people out of bad faith. It's not in good faith. It is inconsistent and biased. Okay, it's oh my God, that is just not gonna. It's gonna bother me. It's really gonna bother me that they're going to be that. I don't want to say petty. It's not semantical. It's extremely important that the rhetoric used at most protests not be tarnished by this event. The Pentagon has said that Capitol Police turned down an offer for help days before the riot. Once it became clear the day of the event that more aid would be needed, a logistically complicated struggle to bring in a larger force to back up the embattled police ensued. Now, the Defense Department Inspector General will review the Pentagon's roles, responsibilities, and actions in preparing and responding to the riot. Oh my God, if they somehow dovetail the Pentagon into dealing with civil unrest, I'm going to screw. That is another part of the Orwellian present, is the ability for jackbooted, overt policing to oppress the political dissidents. At the Justice Department, the Inspector General investigation will examine whether information was adequately shared with other agencies, including the Capitol Police. The Inspector Gen said it will also assess whether there are any weaknesses in DOJ protocols, policies, or procedures that adversely affected the ability of DOJ or its components to prepare effectively for and respond to the events at the Capitol. And again, this is 9/11 all over again, okay? So you had the 9/11 Commission. They deemed that there was an intelligence failure, and it happened on a cross-agency level. That's how you get that. I mean, I feel like JSOCs existed before then, but they really became popular after that, where you had joint terrorism, anti-terrorism task force between state and local and federal law, blah, 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 blah. All that federalization money, all of that stuff, the APCs and all that shit. Okay. But then you had it on a what's the word I'm looking for? On a level of processing, on a level of dissemination, where they had logistical information, actionable information, and didn't act on it. Right, the failure was on multiple levels, and it's always the same thing. What else did they said that about the 7/7 bombing? They said that about the Boston bomb. Every time this happens, it's always the same thing, and I'm like, wait a minute, we're getting reports from verified. I'm gonna get my news guard. I'm gonna get it. Don't worry. We're getting reports from verified news sources. I mean, AP and Newsmax. That everything comes from AP and Newsmax. So there's that. But and these stories are telling us really incredible things. And to change context to the Capitol Hill riot, to switch off of 9/11, this one congresswoman's panic buttons were all ripped out of her office, and then these two things here, the Pentagon had said the Capitol Police turned down an offer for assistance days before the riot, and then the Capitol Police said that they were prepared for free speech activity, but not for violence. But then again, the Pentagon had the National Guard there, and they only had a few, and they disarmed them and sent them onto traffic. Like, these are the things, because all you're going to do is like, oh, well, you guys seem to have, all this whole thing that they just described is going to do, is they're going to point to it after it's done and say, oh, you guys have an antiquated, bureaucratically overweight, bloated system, and you need to speed things up. What? That's not holding anyone to account. That's not pointing out what seems to be culpability in the cases of the Capitol Police removing barricades, taking selfies, and handing out water. Like, you're not getting to the heart of the matter. Yet again, what a surprise. What a surprise, surprise, surprise. At the Justice Department, the Inspector General investigation will examine whether information was adequately shared and yada, yada, yada. The review will almost certainly include an assessment of intelligence that the Justice Department, and particularly the FBI, had collected before and after the riot. By the way, we know of at least one report they're referring to, and that's the report the DOJ got, or the FBI got, that the Washington Post reported on, that talked about online threads, culminating and talking and congregating about talking about violence. But that was in relation to the lockdowns, and that was explicitly said. So now we're seeing the dovetailing of, I don't want to say alternative information, but you're getting the dovetailing of what people consider like alt-right corners of the internet and stuff like that. And they're like and this is the whole thing. It's always in a blanket, in an umbrella, where ideas between A and B are caught up in the war between A and B. And it's like, wait, man, I'm talking about election procedure, electoral procedure and conduct, something that every election we have issues with. I'm talking about the issues with electronic voting, something we've had issues with since 2000. The hanging chads, we had electronic voting in 2000. That's the first time we had it. However, the hanging chads was with the punch cards. I digress. Just want to make that clear. But, bruh, I'm just talking about like things that we talk about every 4 years, bruh. So don't even come at me with, oh my God, you're supporting the no. Put your anger cap back into your pocket or whatever. Get off the roid rage. All right, calm down. Go grab a Snickers. You might be hangry. Okay, hungry, angry, because you're not listening to what I'm saying. I'm not talking about. You feel me? That's the problem that we have. That I have, and people like myself who, come from the perspective that I am, where I'm trying to disseminate everything. So I'm trying to dissociate the hearsay, right? And sift through the bias and get to the actual nuggets of information that are relevant, no less. Because there's all sorts of stuff. Like, again, these suicides are interesting, but if they have no relation to the riot, why are you reporting on them? Interesting. That's even more interesting to me. Gee golly. But I digress. Let's finish this. The review by Stephen D'Antonio, okay, the assistant director in charge of the FBI's Washington field office, said last week that there had been no indication of anything other than First Amendment activity. Days later, the Washington Post revealed the existence of a January 5th report in the FBI field office in Norfolk that cited an online thread with detailed threats from extremists to be ready for war over the lockdowns. That's interesting, and I'll finish this up. I know I keep interrupting myself, but they're not going to mention that it wasn't even over the electoral position. It was over the lockdowns. Right, ready? D'Antonio later characterized the warning as a threat on a message board that was not attributable to any particular person, suggesting that there was not much that could be done with the information, and there isn't. He said the information was quickly shared with other law enforcement agencies through the Joint Terrorism Task Force in Washington. That corroborates with what we've been reading. Meanwhile, the DHS Inspector General said it would look into the response of its component agencies, focusing in part on the Office of Intelligence and Analysis. That unit issues alerts to law enforcement agencies around the country. The Interior Department's internal watchdog, meanwhile, will review the actions of the Park Police including how it handled law enforcement on the ellipsis, the site of Trump's speech to supporters at the rally before the riot. So, of course, it does not mention that the thread was in relation to the lockdowns and not to any sort of position on the election. Again, not surprising because, as I point out, this is about manufacturing a narrative and to skew the perspective to, to what's the word I'm looking for, to kind of to shape and mold. I mean, I don't know how else to describe it. It is a concerted effort to make sure that you digest the information, digest the events, and digest the information related to the events in a particular way. And I don't like that. I don't like being manipulated. I want to be told what happened, not how to think about what happened. Just tell me what happened. I honestly, I don't care where you stand on what happened. I mean, I care about everyone's opinion. Everyone is entitled to an opinion. But you're a newspaper. Okay, you're a journalist. You're supposed to just deliver the news, not your opinion. And it's not supposed to be the news with your skewed opinion, perspective written from. Anyway, I digress. Excuse me. So, more folks are being arrested in relation to the riot, and in this case, this is actually two off-duty Virginia police officers. Two off-duty Rocky Mount, Virginia police officers were charged yesterday in federal court in connection with the riots. Jacob Fracker and Thomas Robertson were charged by complaint with one count of knowingly entering or remaining in any restricted building or grounds without lawful authority, and one count of violent entry and disorderly conduct on Capitol grounds. I mean, and they were claiming they're going to try and get these people on murder one and stuff. Both defendants were arrested on January 13th in Virginia. It is alleged that during the events at Capitol Hill, Fracker and Robertson were photographed in the building making an obscene gesture in front of the John Stark statue. You can only imagine what that gesture was. On social media, Robertson is quoted saying, CNN and the left are just mad because we actually attack the government, who is the problem, and not some random small business. That's a valid observation. Not necessarily about the CNN and the left being mad, but there are distinctions to be made in destroying the local businesses and even corporate businesses. It's not that I care about corporations, but you're destroying the economic infrastructure of a community when you destroy, for example, its only supermarket, okay, or you completely destroy it's one of its only clean parks, for example, right? You know what I mean? Things that are functional within the community. All right. I, for one, know that if the convenience store near my house were to suddenly go away, it's like a 20-minute trip to get to the nearest store. It's a pain. It sucks, right? So there is a distinction to be made and a difference to be made in the collateral damage of because it's both violence and vandalism, but the collateral damage from one far less affects the individual, and it depends, because it's like, oh my God, what if they were successful and they stopped? That would definitely affect us. But you see those are the sorts of things that I weigh. But either way, I will say this much: when you have violence and vandalism of any kind and you justify it, you set a precedent for violence and vandalism of any kind. So, well, you know what I'm going to say, right? Burning down neighborhoods and getting into it with other political groups and things like that, taking over part of a city, demolishing a police station, and causing the deaths of 5 people and shooting 11 different shootings, all in the name of your political ideology, has now emboldened your political opponents to do the same. Except they didn't go into local neighborhoods. They took it straight to the seat of power. These are important distinctions, right? You set a precedent, so they took that precedent, and instead of turning it inward, they took it right to the jackboot. I'm sorry, but you got to commend them for at least that much, all right? As ridiculous as the event was, as useless politically as I've been saying it is, as much as I do not condone violence, I condemn, not condone, violence. I admonish, not admire No, admonishing is a good thing anyway. Anyway, I digress. You know what I mean? I don't admire, right? The fact still remains they did not take it to any inner locale, destroying neighborhoods and functional parts of their local economy and community. They didn't do none of that. They took it right to Uncle Sam, because that's where the problem is. Uncle Sam is the issue, not each other. It's not like we're looking at, well, actually, some of us are looking at each other and supporting restricting Medicare for all. So in that case, yeah. But the point is, like, we're not lawmakers. The lawmakers are the ones that are making our lives fucking miserable. So I give it to them for that. They didn't go into anybody's neighborhoods and destroy things and ruin lives. They're like, you know what? It's not these people. It's these lawmakers that just don't care about us. So you got to commend them for that. You're not even commend them. At least appreciate that they didn't go into people's neighborhoods and destroy things. There's something to be said about that, especially given DC's a black city. This entire group is supposed to be white supremacists. You'd think they were just like, you know what, God damn it, well, fuck it. And they took their Confederate flags and went down and burned some black people. Like, you know what I mean? Like, no, they took it to Uncle Sam's fucking ass, because they are the problem. Good Creator, help us all. The Creator already has. Gave us the ability to think for ourselves, to have faith in our cognitive capabilities, our capacity to learn from our mistakes and to grow, to be capable, functional, constructive people. Okay? We have the power. It's there. It's being utilized, just not effectively. All right. To continue, this person, Thomas, I forgot all of that from that one sentence. So on social media, Robertson is quoted saying, CNN and the left are just mad because we actually attack the government, who is the problem, and not some random small business. The right in one day took the effing U.S. Capitol. Keep poking us. Oh, boy. But you know what? You hear, and see, here's the thing. He's talking to the government. He's not looking at the left. He's not looking at his political opponents and saying, yeah, come get some. Like, that's the stuff. That's the type of shit like Proud Boys does. He's looking to the government, the overall opponent of all peoples, and saying, you know what? You're poking a bear. You're poking a bear. And however ridiculous we may seem, our populist sentiments of being poor, of being destitute, of being disenfranchised, that's something everyone feels to some degree or another, whether you know what I mean? Everyone has that feeling. So it's at the very least something that I think it's a sentiment everyone can understand. Now, again, you can't, it's politically ineffective. It's immoral. It's toxic to just go around destroying shit, right? That's not, I'm not trying to kill people, man. Even in self-defense, you still have taken a life, and all life is precious, and you will have to live with the consequences of that, which is one thing, right? Oh, by the way, I was thinking of a quote yesterday, because, right, we were talking about Trump's rhetoric, and it's like, it'd be one thing if you start to hear rhetoric like, the tree of liberty from time to time requires the blood of patriots. Stuff like that is like, that's very inflammatory and insinuating language. But it's saying stuff like, we got to fight for our rights and stand up to have a... Oh, God, don't even get me started on rhetoric. But I digress. Let me just keep going. He also stated that he was proud of a photo on Instagram that was shared to Facebook because he was willing to put skin in the game. On Facebook, Fracker posted a comment that read, lol, to anyone who's possibly concerned about the picture of me going around. Sorry, I hate freedom? ? Not like I did anything illegal. Y'all do what you feel you need to. The post has since been deleted. This is what I'm saying. These aren't people. A lot of these guys are not people that made like a concerted effort and plan. These are idiots who just walked up and in some cases were allowed in. We saw the video. So it's like you can't, it's not even anything that's in dispute. It's bizarre and fascinating and interesting and historic and neat and disturbing and disconcerting and disheartening and frightening. It's all of these things. All of this is all of these things. And it's only getting started. This is like the tip of the tip of the tip of the tippy tip of the tip. Let me put the tip in tip of the iceberg. This is nothing. This is only going to, and I don't want to say it's going to get worse, but it's certainly going to be interesting. But like, what it is that the good news will be tepid, and it will be like not very substantive. You know what I mean? We'll be like when we got the $600 checks. We'll get little crumbs, and we'll be thankful for the crumbs, and go about living our life subjugated to hell, to this bizarro, contradictory, hypocritical, overtly Orwellian hell. The Orwellian present is here, and it's unraveling step by step before our very eyes. So, stunning report says Capitol mob who wanted to hang Pence was 1 minute from finding him. I haven't really got a chance to get to this, but I thought it was interesting, the headline. It's always the Washington Post that has these hyperbolic, overly dramatic headlines. They got to catch your eye, and they do. My God, they do. The violent pro-Trump mob that stormed the Capitol last week and had plans to hang Vice President Pence was reportedly just 1 minute away from finding him in the Senate chamber. Perilously close. That's how close he came to... And it's according to the Washington Post. I have to say that. Perilously close. That's how close he came to maybe encountering these rioters who had breached the Capitol complex. CNN's Jessica Snyder reported, noting that the Post completed a minute-by-minute account of the attack. Gross. How could you know exactly what was going on in the entire Capitol minute by minute? You know what? Never mind. We're not doing that. And it is really stunning because it does come down to just minutes, and in fact, maybe even just 1 minute between when those rioters breached and were within the sight of the VP before he was whisked into another office. The Post also reported and revealed that the VP was not evacuated from the Senate chamber for roughly 14 minutes after the Capitol Police announced the attempted storming of the room. Snyder pointed out that this means Pence was not brought to a safe room until after rioters had entered the Capitol building, chanting, "Hang Mike Pence." You know what's interesting is that that's it. That's all the article says. This is journalism today. They were gonna hang him. They were 1 minute away, and somehow the Washington Post had synchronized camera. Well, I mean, there are cameras all over the place, but I mean, did they? I mean, you know, I guess it is possible now that I think about it. You would have to correlate all of the cameras pointed at every single camera angle at the time of the riots and correlate all of that footage, and you could have a real-time macroscopic picture of what was going on at the... So I guess it is possible. But yes, they would. They would give that information to the Pentagon. They would give that information to the Washington Post. They would let the Washington Post probably sit there as they were compiling. The Washington Post would ask them to compile the videos for them in the easiest and most easily digestible way possible. There would be total cooperation on the part of both parties. I don't even know why I asked. Never mind. So I was doing my thing, living my life, and I overheard something funny, that the National Guard was being given donations because people thought they were broke because they saw them sleeping on the floor. I mean, bro, it's the Army. They will just lay down and get the shut eye anywhere. That's how it's supposed to be. What do you think? I mean, especially seeing as how Trump has given a historic amount of money to the military. I mean, it's not a good look, but like it's not something that I think any of them care about. It's just the floor. It's not like they're in Baghdad. They're a plane, like a short train ride or plane ride away. There's probably a pizza shop down the street. Like I don't think it's a big deal for them. But the fact remains that there's 20,000 National Guardsmen in DC right now with full kit, as you saw, fully armed, full kit. I mean, they're not making the mistake that they made with the riots where they disarmed everybody. Fucking stupid. They disarmed everybody. But yeah, there's a full militarized presence within DC. And I was actually listening, and they make a good point. And I was talking about this. Coups, right, are not really like coups in third world countries are overt and violent, but this is the 21st century in America. It's not going to be like a bloody thing. It'll be a thing where there will be procedural misconduct done to absolve the sitting president of their, like, if Pelosi manages to coerce Pence to do the 25th, stuff like that, it wouldn't be this overt bloodshed. But I digress. Let's read this. Yahoo News says the Guard said Wednesday it is not capable of accepting donations. So stop giving them money, or stop trying to. Wouldn't it be interesting if we had a civilian-funded military? What control could we have then over its deployment, I wonder? The statement came after some were moved to donate after seeing photos of the National Guard looking like after seeing the National Guard sleeping on the U.S. Capitol floor. The Guard assured the public of its members that they have proper sleeping quarters. And then people were freaking out because this guardsman was reading Atlas Shrugged. Jeez. Come on, people. Everyone has an opinion, especially these days. And of course, they had to take a picture of this woman reading Atlas Shrugged. Members of the U.S. National Guard were seen Wednesday sleeping on the floor, but that doesn't mean they lack proper sleeping quarters. Yeah, this article's all weird. Brian Barlett, a Republican communication strategist, raised more than $3,000 on GoFundMe to buy sleeping pads so they can have a decent rest as they protect our democracy. But the Guard soon clarified, please no, the Guardsmen have appropriate lodging for when they're off duty. They're on duty sleeping, which I don't know if that's worse. So what it is that there are designated rest areas between shifts. So they're on duty sleeping on the floor. Whatever, bro. I mean, don't get me wrong. I think that's funny. I'm already off on something else. I'm here. Feds walk back claims Capitol rioters meant to capture and assassinate elected officials. Do you think anyone is reading this? Let's be honest. You know what? On that note, I am parched. I must hydrate. One moment. Do you think anyone is actually reading this? Let's be honest with ourselves here. No one knows this article exists, and probably will never know this article exists, for the simple fact that removes a core aspect of the narrative. The narrative is that the feds knew that these guys were coming, and that this has been confirmed and conclusive. It's categorical. They were there to kill. They were there to assassinate. They were there to capture and behead. Really? That's why they ran up in there pissing, pooping, and doing Instagram live, making phone calls. They ran up in there making phone calls and taking selfies, stealing podiums. Really? That isn't to say that there weren't people there who were trying to get their hands on a representative, for sure. That's how Ashley Babbitt got killed. But as I've been saying, the majority of these people, were tailgating rejects who let me stop. They tailgating rejects, and they got caught. They went, and a lot of them, I think most of them got caught in this, but some of them. Here's actually what I think happened. I think there was a concerted effort on the part of several groups, people, whatever. I think there's an element of those who came to the rally and wanted there to jump off. And those who made the concerted effort to plan ahead of time and organize violence were looking for those people. They needed those people as the catalyst, okay? Couldn't do it without them. Once you got them whipped up and antagonized enough to go off and continue the violence forward, then everyone just joined in. It's a 1, 2, 3. You got the planners, you got the agitators, the agitated, and the ralliers. And once the agitators got to the agitated, everyone became a rioter, including the ralliers. That's what I believe is the best summary of what took place. Agitators, agitated, ralliers. Agitators get to the agitated, instigate the agitated. The riot starts, and ralliers, as well as everyone else, becomes a rioter. That said, The feds walked back the claim that the rioters meant to capture and assassinate elected officials because they actually have no evidence that anyone was there to do anything like that, because the majority of those people weren't. But let's read from USA Today. Federal authorities said Friday that there's no direct evidence of kill and capture teams among the Capitol rioters, walking back claims outlined in court documents that attackers sought to apprehend and assassinate elected officials. Acting D.C. U.S. Attorney Michael Sherwin, who is leading the sprawling investigation into the assault, referenced federal prosecutors' assertions in D.C. In the District Court of Arizona supporting the detention of riot suspect Jacob Anthony Chansley, who was widely photographed in face paint and a horned helmet leading part of the mob. The horned guy. Strong evidence, including Chansley's own words and actions at the Capitol, supports that the intent of the Capitol rioters was to capture and assassinate elected officials in the U.S. government. The initial contention that elected officials were targeted was offered in support of claims that Chansley, known as Jake Angeli and the QAnon shaman, represented a continuing threat to the public and should remain in custody. But Sherwin contradicted the alarming allegation, suggesting that there was a disconnect among federal authorities or that local prosecutors acted on information that was not known to officials in Washington. It's because it's called the trumped-up charges. Chansley, who allegedly used a spear to fight Capitol Police during the attack, I think he did have a flag in his hand, though, was expected to appear in a Phoenix court Friday. Chansley is an active participant in and has made himself the most prominent symbol of a violent insurrection that attempted to overthrow the United States government. Oh my God! Inside the Capitol, Chansley used his bullhorn, the filing states, to shout invectives, including repeating that they were there to take out several United States congressmen. I mean, is that proven? Chansley also allegedly, it's alleged, left a note on the Senate chamber dais where Vice President Mike Pence had been presiding that warned, "It's only a matter of time. Justice is coming." When questioned as to the meaning of that statement, Chansley went on a lengthy diatribe describing current and past United States political leaders as infiltrators, specifically naming VP Pence, Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton, and Joe Biden as infiltrators involved in various types of wrongdoing. Although he stated his note was not a threat, the government strongly disagrees. So he admitted to the note. That's stuff it's stuff like that, the notes, things like that people are like, no, yeah. See, if he shouldn't have admitted to the note. I mean, not that I'm trying to advise him as to how to commit his illegalities. But there's a reason why we have a Fifth Amendment. But I think what it is that these guys they really truly do not believe that they have done anything wrong, and that they are exerting their First Amendment abilities to be proponents of their political ideology. That's their perception of things. I mean, I put it this way: even if that wasn't a congressman in a court of law, if he had broken into someone's house and had done something like that, or if he was at a job in the workplace and had left a note like that, you know what I mean? Like, there aren't a lot of scenarios in which leaving a note for someone you don't know who's in a position of power, that it's only a matter of time justice is coming, can't be perceived as a threat, at least even a minor threat. Whatever. I'm so tired of talking about the power of rhetoric as if no one knows about it already, as if no one understands how this works. It's this game of like delegitimacy and of immaturity, right? We all get to play dumb when a guy we don't like comes onto the board. But when, all these past presidents have done nothing but give us lip service, when Joe Biden looks at a camera and says, "If you don't vote for me, you ain't black," when every single presidential candidate panders to black people as if basically they're all like 18-year-old like rap fans. It's ridiculous. And it's like we act like we're not aware of this, of how rhetoric goes in politics. But fine. I'm trying to get through all of the things. I think we might make it today. Here comes the fallout of the Capitol Hill the Capitol Hill siege. That includes the Orwellian present that keeps on giving. One nightmare after another. In this case, trolls wrongly accuse retired firefighter of Capitol riot murder. Retired Chicago firefighter Dave Quantival was grocery shopping and celebrating his wife's birthday in Chicago during the Capitol Hill insurrection. Yes, we are now harassing random people. Let me see if I can get the... We are now harassing random people in the street, accusing them by what's the word I'm looking for? By online kangaroo court of doing things they didn't do. So, let's read. David Quantival didn't do it. The retired Chicago firefighter from Mount Greenwood, whom social media trolls called a terrorist and accused of fatally wielding a fire extinguisher that killed a cop, was grocery shopping and celebrating with his wife in Chicago, Patches learned. Twitter exploded with unsubstantiated claims Tuesday that Quantival, who retired from the fire department in 2016 after 32 years, was the bearded extinguisher man in the surveillance video wearing a CFD stocking cap and wanted for questioning and soon to be arrested by the FBI regarding the fatal beating of a Capitol police officer. He wasn't beaten. He was hit with a fire extinguisher. I mean, that doesn't devalue, his life. His life, all life has value. I'm just saying, don't make things worse than they are. Quintaval, who shaved his beard before Christmas, told Patch that he wasn't even in Washington last week. He went grocery shopping at Aldi at 9 a.m. and made a home-cooked supper of filet mignon and lobster to celebrate his wife's birthday with their Chicago police officer's son on the day of the riot. The next morning, Quantival made a trip to Home Depot, a self-proclaimed paperwork hoarder. Quantival says he has receipts to prove his whereabouts that his attorney presented with other evidence to FBI to clear his name. Quantival, who doesn't have social media, he's not even online, learned that he had been accused of being a cop-killing terrorist from a Twitter-savvy pal. I got a phone call from a friend who said, "You should see what they twittered about you." Oh, boomers. That's okay. I'll be a boomer soon enough. The way that technology advances, I'll be a boomer in 5 years. I won't know how to, you know what I mean? But you should see what they twittered about you. Some woman from British Columbia showed the surveillance picture of the guy wearing CFD stocking cap and a beard like I've had, and file footage when I was protesting the city inappropriately scoring the fire lieutenant's exam, and said, "This is the guy," and the ball started rolling. Let me read that again. Some woman from British Columbia showed the surveillance picture of the guy wearing the CFD stocking cap and a beard like I've had, and file footage when I was protesting the city inappropriately scoring the fire lieutenant's exam. What? And said, "This is the guy," and the ball started rolling. Everybody started saying, "Here's the guy." That sentence doesn't make sense. The unconfirmed reports quickly spread. Soon, social media filled with details about Quantival's personal life, including his appearance at a walk to support CPD rally, there we go, in Mount Greenwood in August to support his namesake son, an Inglewood District police officer who still lives at home. Unable to find Quantival's non-existent social media feeds, someone dug up a 2017 post written by his estranged brother accusing the retired firefighter of being a bum who fraudulently acquired their mother's home. He's a bum. By Tuesday night, Quantival began getting angry calls from people saying he's an effing murderer who belongs in jail. TV news reporters had staked out his house. Chicago police dispatched a patrol car to keep watch overnight. Some folks got ridiculed for tweeting that Quantival wasn't the guy and his facial features don't match those of the man wanted for questioning. One post claimed that tweets disputing Quantival's involvement in the U.S. insurrection were pushed by trolling Twitter bots with practically no followers coming out of the woodwork. You see what I mean? Twitter is so, it's so personal. It's so in your face, right? And it's like someone is standing there and they're like bullhorning or having a conversation out loud, like people who are crazy or on meth do. And it's so loud and obnoxious that you're attracted to it. So you go to it and you're like, dude, okay, what are you talking about? Oh, that's what you're talking about. And before you know it, you're responding. Your response is innate. It's not something you consider. It's like, oh, that's what you're talking about, dude. You're freaking crazy. You're like, oh crap. Here we go. And then out of the woodwork, all these other people who have been watching and listening are like, oh, yeah, he's crazy. Oh, yeah, yeah. Then you get a bunch of people agreeing with you. You're like, oh, all right, well, that's nice. But then this guy, he just goes off and he kills himself. You know what I mean? It's just, it's ridiculous. The power, and this is the thing, it isn't social media in and of itself has the power. We have the power over each other, or rather, we give the power to each other to control and manipulate each other's emotions by tying, right, our happy mechanism to likes. It's like a drug, right? And there's what is it? A serotonin release? No, I don't think it's serotonin. What is it? Endorphins. There are endorphins that are released. Like when you work out. Working out gives you energy. Working out gives you endorphins. Energy and endorphins make you happy. Well, so does getting likes. And, making a very good trade on the market like I did today. Hats off. Or, good sex. Like all of these things cause an endorphin release that you then get addicted to. You want to have happen over and over again. I feel like it has less to do because social media as a technology is merely the medium by which we are able to influence and interact with each other, to synergize with each other. And so like we can blame social media to a certain degree as far as how it's moderated and things like that, and big tech Orwellian oversight and such. But the reality is that we give the power to each other to affect each other in that way, right? You hear about like internet addiction, social media addiction. The reality is that when I was homeless and not on Facebook, it was some of the most introspective. It was the most introspective moment in my life that I had. That's when I messed up for a while, obviously, but then I stopped drinking, got out of the wheelchair, and all that happened because I was not. Well, it happened for a multitude of reasons. One of those reasons was that I was not enveloped online, in particular on social media, which I was during the time beforehand. There is a lot to be said about the cult of celebrity culture, cult of celebrity monoculture, soon to be, that we have in this country, really in the Western world and in a lot of the world, because celebrities are known all over the world, even in places where they don't have like running water, right? People without clean toilets know who Tupac is, and that says something. Where the reality is that if you're popular, you're influential. It's not if you're intelligent or if you're kind or if you're stoic or if you stand by your principles. It's really if you're popular, and what is popular is fluid and mercurial and ever changing. The zeitgeist is ever shifting, and that's the thing. One day intelligence could be popular. Remember we were all talking about Neil deGrasse Tyson. And then another day, environmentalism can be popular. And everybody was talking about Gretchen Thunberg, right? And right now, hating anyone at all who has anything to say about the electoral process is what's popular. So, to finish off at the bottom of the show, because we are running out of time, he won't last until the primary. Republicans who voted to impeach Trump, they're getting death threats. This is the Daily Beast. Just one day after voting to impeach Trump, the 10 Republicans who sided against him have endured both physical and political threats. I haven't heard about physical. I've heard about political. When a group of, and this is what we're talking about. And actually, you know what? I'm not going to go into this I'm not going to go into the article because it really I just wanted to bring up the article to highlight the fracturing within the GOP that's currently happening. Now, the fracturing of the left is still happening as far as progressives utilizing or wielding the power that they ostensibly have gained in the 2020 election. Because right now, they're basically not asking for anything. Medicare for all, forced to vote didn't work. Ostensibly, again, we seem to have Biden at the table for $2,000 checks and an increase and extension in unemployment and in the eviction moratoriums. We don't know if, and actually I should check that because as we know, in the last COVID bill, they created a tax deferment for businesses to pay for COVID paid leave. But in the bill, businesses do not have to give paid COVID leave. So basically, they're forcing employees to use their paid time off if they get COVID to take time off, even though businesses can pay them for their time off because there's a tax deferment created there. There's money there for it. So maybe Biden's newest plan, his latest plan, will remedy that. I don't know. I actually have not looked into it. It would be nice. It would be nice to hear, because I know there's more PPP coming out, and we heard about PPP nonsense. $4 million to Joel Osteen's megachurch, like they need it, like they need it. Oh my God. But the fracturing of the left is still happening, right? I was just mentioning the whole situation with the progressives. Well, the fracturing of the right is occurring, and really, what you're seeing is a complete breakdown of our two-party system, which I've been saying, like, say what you want about Trump. However, I made this analogy here. He's kind of like Anakin Skywalker. Anakin Skywalker was destined and praised to be the chosen one, right? Yes, I'm making a Star Wars reference. He was destined to be the chosen one. He ended up becoming Darth Vader. He was supposed to bring balance to the Force, but he ended up becoming Darth Vader and murdering all of the Jedi across the galaxy, leaving very few and causing, a tyranny that lasted for like 40 years or something, 40, 50 years. But because of his actions, that led to the rise of Luke Skywalker and the rebellion. And Luke Skywalker, as we know, through his actions, did end up bringing balance to the Force. The point I'm trying to get to is that just as Trump has been said to be a result of the failed political situation internally in our country, and he was supposed to shake things up and drain the swamp, and things have in fact become ostensibly on the outside worse, what happened? Everything has been shaken up. Progressives actually have a chance, even though they're not doing anything within their own party, because the Democratic Party literally cannibalized itself and there's nothing left. They cannibalized Bernie. Bernie succumbed to it all and got taken into the fold. He is now an establishment Democrat, and there's no one left. There was nothing left. And so people finally utilized their vote effectively, and you saw progressives and progressive policies down ballot across the board of the 2020 election finally come to the forefront. You saw the sorts of policies and ideas that were never, we call it kitchen table conversations, come to the forefront, which generally happens every election that Bernie has run in. And then Ron Paul before him. Ron Paul as well, actually, because they ran simultaneously and won. So there seems to be a dissemination, a breaking down of the established political order, kind of, because with an incoming Biden administration, right, things could go back to business as usual. That was their whole thing, going back to things as usual. If we go back, if things codify into the way that they were, I mean, it'll be the way things were, and all this will pretty much start all over again. And here's the thing: it won't start all over again because you will not have there will. I don't think the entrenched political establishment on the left or the right will allow an outsider again to win, especially someone with Trump's demeanor. Right? It's one thing to be an outsider; it's another to be a piece of trash like Trump. So, I highly doubt they're going to let another outsider in. But because there's a little bit of COVID news, but I want to get to Representative Boebert because we were talking about the normalization of violence. Okay, the whole thing about it is Representative Lauren Boebert. She recently won her seat for the 2020 election, and she's the lady who's bringing the gun onto campus. And you can bring a gun onto Capitol Hill, but you can't carry it in D.C. proper, right? So, which is weird because it's like, how are you going to get it to the Hill unless you leave it on the Hill? I don't know. But what they ended up doing is they ended up locking out her account, okay? But here's the thing. Here's the thing about locking out her account. They locked out her account because she live tweeted about Nancy Pelosi's location. And I'm wondering if that is confirmed or if that's speculative, because they are accusing her of awful things. They're accusing her of being a part of the collective of the representatives that gave a reconnaissance tour, right? Remember we read about that allegedly happening. They are saying they wanted her arrested. They're saying that what else? They said something else, but mainly they wanted her arrested, and that she was one of the folks giving a reconnaissance tour. Just obscene allegations. Extreme, obscene, inflammatory salacious allegations. So she tweets, Twitter randomly shut down my account with no explanation. They do this to thousands of conservatives every day. When the press reported the ban, it was lifted. That's it. That's it. And I'm glad she kept it. She said one more sentence. What about the thousands of Americans who have been banned and are never heard from again? But I'm glad she kept it succinct. I was banned for nothing and not told why. The ban was lifted once the news reported on it. I wonder why that is. I would have just left it like that. I wonder why that is. And then the way the reporting is, a Republican congresswoman who supports QAnon. I've never heard her support QAnon. I've never heard her even say the word QAnon. Yeah. After she live tweeted House Speaker Pelosi's location during the deadly Capitol insurrection. I'd like to, where is this? So she revealed on Instagram, it was on Instagram that she tweeted that, it was on Instagram that she said that. She revealed on Instagram what Twitter had prevented her from posting until Inauguration Day. It was not immediately clear why Twitter had shut down the lawmaker's account. But then you insinuated that Twitter did it because she live tweeted House Speaker Nancy Pelosi's location. That's the insinuation by your writing. This is what I mean by journalism, guys. This is what I'm talking about. Twitter users called for Bobette to be jailed after she used the platform to disclose details of Pelosi's security. Wow, okay. So let's read this story. Congresswoman faces calls for arrest after live tweeting. A gun-toting supporter of QAnon. I see. Okay. So the way that they're writing it, she's very pretty, but she's got one of those archetypical like faces, like, "Hi, how you doing?" And it's like, I hate that shit. Like, smile like a regular person. I mean, you're a representative on Capitol Hill, so you're not human. You're a congressperson. You're not human. So sorry, but the way that it's all being framed and written, they make it seem like she was tweeting like, We've got eyes on Pelosi. She's currently ditching her detail. I'm gonna lead her down the hall. Over, like, you know what I mean? Here's the thing for me. Why are you tweeting during a riot? But then again, others were tweeting and gramming. We'll call it gramming. Others were tweeting and gramming too. So I can't sweat her on that. No one. This is what I'm talking about. This is what I'm talking about. The hypocrisy. There were other people tweeting and gramming too. All right. Yeah, I wouldn't. Nah. See, and the thing is, like, this is actually kind of understandable. But then again, 8:30 a.m., the riot hadn't jumped off. And see, the way, okay, so let me point this out for our listeners. All right, because I'm sitting here reading this and realizing that this is dead air. So she tweeted, during the riot, we were locked in the House chambers. No, she said the speaker has been removed from the chambers. We were locked in the House chambers. This is during the riot. And I think that was all she tweeted. And then, but then the same day, 8:30 a.m., she tweeted, "Today is 1776." Could have been a code word. I don't know. I'm not. It's very like, she seems to be a very succinct tweeter. She doesn't go into like large diatribes. So it's fine, whatever. But she was totally hyped up while spewing her objections just minutes before this erupted. I was watching, and I even tweeted at the time asking who she was yelling at. Her behavior is very suspicious. She was definitely playing her part in this attack. Wow. Sorry about it's just, the utilization of circumstantial garbage found on Twitter to try and ruin people's lives this is the beginning. This is like first level stuff, because we've seen this tick up and up and up and up as cancel culture has become more and more overt and fearless. Oh my God. All right. So this is the end of the show. I don't feel like talking about COVID. I really don't. COVID, we'll just go through it briefly, because I'm sure we'll hear about it, or I'll just talk about it on Monday. So, the UK variant that's more contagious is going to probably be the more dominant strain by March. It's not more deadly. It's not deadlier. It's just more contagious. COVID's going to be everywhere. So, Biden administration coming in, they're going to speed up the vaccination process, but Biden's plan has fewer rules involved with more shots in revised vaccination drives. Unfortunately, I'm not getting into what those fewer rules are, but I don't think we need less rules when, people are having what seemed to be like a record numbers of AEFI anaphylactic reactions to both the Pfizer and Moderna vaccinations. There's going to be vaccine passports. I know I was supposed to talk about this today, but I'm not going to. I'm sorry, guys. And the NRA's broke. They filed for bankruptcy, which is something that I thought I would never live to see. This is definitely a... This is definitely just a changing landscape, indeed. And I mean, it's not necessarily, here's the thing. For me, as an individual, I am fucking hard-headed, okay? It requires a great amount of suffering on my part. It required a great amount of suffering on my part for me to wake up. And from my study and interest and understanding and reading into human history, behaviors, mannerisms, the patterns and likelihoods that we tend to follow. We're pattern recognizing and utilizing animals that seek the easy way out due to our, higher cognitive functions, right? All the same things that all animals do, reproduce, eat, all that stuff, we have to do as well. We know that. And we just find easier ways of getting it done. Because we can. Because that's what we do. Great. Unfortunately, we tend to also gravitate, those easier ways are generally lazier ways. And that laziness becomes like a framework for all of our behaviors, all of our patterns, all of our what was supposed to be disciplines. So we do everything in that sort of easy way out manner. That being said, it will not be until there isn't an organization to stand up for your Second Amendment rights that people will realize there needs to at least be an organization to stand up for your Second Amendment rights. That said, please like, share, and subscribe if you like what I'm doing. And please take care of yourself and each other. Have a great weekend.